Welcome to Redefine Instruction webcast and podcast series, where we bring a fresh perspective with every season. Grab a cup of coffee and join your host, Sandhya Lakhanpal, for another exciting episode of the Cre8ive Passionpreneur Chronicles, where she unravels freelance marketing and business secrets. Get ready to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit and dive into stories that will empower you to achieve your goals and live life on your own terms. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for the latest episodes. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to be inspired by a true powerhouse of wisdom and resilience. Today, we have the privilege of welcoming a remarkable individual to our podcast. Our guest is no ordinary speaker. Ben Albert's role is to extract the very essence of wisdom from incredible individuals, such as executives, entrepreneurs, behavior scientists, sales trainers, wellness experts, and more. In just a matter of minutes, he skillfully compresses decades of valuable insights into bite-sized nibbles for his eager listeners. As part of the Real Business Connections Network, his podcast is home to 6 captivating programs that dive deep into various aspects of personal and professional growth. From Learn, Speak, Teach to Rochester Business Connections, 15-Minute Fridays to Ben's Bites, Real Hits to AB²C, Lunch Break Live, there is no shortage of knowledge and inspiration for every listener. Ben Albert, despite describing himself as a marketing generalist, brings a profound understanding of a wide range of topics, including networking, SEO, advertising, sales, social media, and much more. His expertise and insights will surely ignite your imagination and provide valuable guidance on your own journey toward success. If you'd like to follow Ben, you can find links to his podcasts and website in the show notes. So, without further ado, let's welcome our extraordinary guest, Ben Albert.
Morning, Ben. I am so excited to have you here on my podcast series. Welcome to the Redefine Instruction podcast. Tell me, who is Ben Albert and what prompted you to get into podcasting?
Yeah, well, in this moment, Ben Albert's someone who's grateful to be here. Who is Ben Albert? Such a difficult question because, I'm a son, I'm a podcaster, I'm a marketer, but really at the core, I'm just a human with curious questions, figuring it out with his, hand in the mud, planting seeds, learning with everybody else. When people ask who I am, I don't know how to answer it because I'm just a Homo sapien that's learning and curious in this wild world of life. And really what got me into podcasting is just that love of learning and curiosity and knowing that everyone I speak with and everyone I meet has something new that they can teach me.
Fantastic. So you do things slightly differently, which is what brought me to you. Most people have a single podcast and a series of it. You have a network of podcasts. So how did you come up with that idea? Because that is really unique and different from all the others that I listen to.
Yeah, I wish I had a simple answer to how I came up with it. The short story behind it is in 2020 when COVID hit and I was furloughed, I ultimately was a sales executive and suddenly had no book of business and no connections, and we were doing video production worldwide. So I didn't even really have clients or connections in my home city. And I thought to myself, if I can't make a difference in my home city, am I going to make any kind of a difference in this world? Like if I'm a minnow in a sea of sameness and I, as a marketer, can't gain momentum in my home city, what am I doing? So when I decided to go into entrepreneurship, at the same time, I registered my LLC for Bert Marketing. I started doing LinkedIn outreach for Rochester Business Connections, a Rochester, New York-based business podcast. And simply put, it's because I wanted more business connections. And it was a pandemic and the world was in disarray. And I just wanted to connect with people. And that local show, I did a good 75 plus episodes before I started integrating other elements. But Rochester Business Connections was Rochester, New York business owners. I wanted to start doing more short form. That ended up being 15-Minute Friday. And I wanted to talk to mentors all across the world. Like maybe I was getting, little ego based, but I would listen to podcasts and meet people online, and I wanted to bring them on, but they weren't from Rochester, New York. So then I had this shorter segment show, and then this longer, international segment, and all these ideas kept coming in. But instead of, honestly, part of it was being cheap. Instead of setting up a new RSS feed with payment to hosting and trying to market 3, 4, 5 different shows, I created a network of shows very similar to any television network. And even one of the segments is called Real Hits, where we rebroadcast other podcasts, which is very similar to a rerun on a television network. So lots of ideas. And the second answer would be, we wanted to tackle different learning styles. So you could go to one network, get long form, short form, local, conversational, or other voices. So there's a lot of different ideas, and they kind of just smush together. Or a better analogy is, I made a chili pot, and that became Real Business Connections.
Yeah, sweet. I love it. So such as yourself, doubtful, right, about how things are going to start in 2020. I think anybody who's starting a business is doubtful about how they're going to put themselves out there, especially people who make digital products, right? Whether it be course creation, podcasting, or otherwise. What advice do you have for somebody who's just starting out with a digital product, especially about putting themselves out there? The market is so super saturated. It can be it can be overwhelming, and self-doubt can come in pretty fast. So what advice do you have for folks who are just starting out?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I've been there. I even just said it. I was a minnow in an ocean of sameness. I felt that way as a marketer. Everybody's a marketer nowadays. Everybody's an advisor. Everybody's an educator. But if you take a moment and look at your fingerprint and then ask yourself the question, why do they take your fingerprint when you get in trouble? It's because each and every individual fingerprint is completely unique. So if you have doubts, remind yourself that you're completely unique. Joe, Jill, John, lots of J's. The person down the street might have similar products with a similar experience. However, they're not you. And whether it's your story, your unique product offering, the unique way you serve your clients, you can and will stand out, but you need to recognize you're unique. And if you're having doubts before you've even launched, are you going to be successful? Like, you need to, it might be difficult. You need to believe in yourself and believe in your differentiating factor, or you might not be successful. But I believe that if you do put your chips on yourself, there's all good reason that you will be.
Right. Okay, so next question. I know that I was familiar with the podcasting skill and expertise that you bring, but in our conversation, you mentioned video. So I'm interested in, what are your areas of expertise?
I feel like a jack of all trades. Podcasting is the main area of expertise, but then it segments into different content marketing elements. Like when you take a podcast, SEO optimized show notes. So not just a blurb about what I felt like that day, actually utilizing keywords in the title, in the description, timestamping the show notes, adding links, creating a content image for every episode, posting a video for every episode, SEO optimizing the YouTube channel, really seeing the big picture. I don't have one, I guess the direct specialty is podcasting, but I'm not perfect at any one individual thing. But as a marketing generalist, I know the nuance of a lot of different categories, from the social media to the graphic design to the video to optimizing the video to allowing people to stay on your website longer, which is great for the SEO, that people are spending time on the website because you have a video. There's a lot of little intangibles that I bring together for a holistic way to stand out from competition.
Yes. And I know those intangibles are huge. You mentioned one, which is SEOs. Let's talk about SEO. So I have not heard of anyone optimizing their show notes with SEO. Tell me, for my audience, what is SEO? Why is it important? And how does it tie into the show notes and the SEOs embedded in that?
Yeah, I mean, we could do we could do
We
like
could do an entire podcast
yeah.
on that, right?
We could do an 8-hour seminar if we wanted to.
Just a quick clue for the audience. That's all I need.
I'll give some really simple tips. So SEO, search engine optimization, the number one first thing I would do in any regard, if you have any kind of business, is ensure that you have a Google My Business profile. If you've never heard of it, literally Google My Business profile. And what happens is when someone Googles your name or your business name or your podcast name, you'll come up and own real estate on Google, where you can post the website, the phone number, you can post photos, you can post status updates, but all of that's blank space if you don't take action to set up the Google My Business profile. So set up a Google My Business profile. And then when you get in the weeds for the higher level stuff, you want to tackle certain keywords. Because when someone types in Google, I'll use an example, Hala Taha, Young and Profiting Podcast. She's incredible. She's way better than me, but she's been on my show twice. And when I create a title, I'll literally create a title that's kind of boring sometimes, but it'll say Hala Taha Interview, Young and Profiting Podcast. Because I know through my research, people aren't searching for female podcast host who's ethnic. They don't have these long, complicated, they're typing in Hala Taha, or they're typing in Young and Profiting Podcast, or even better, Hala Taha Interview. So in my title, I literally put Hala Taha Interview, Young and Profiting Podcast. And then when you go into the description, it's on this episode, we have an interview with Hala Taha of Young and Profiting Podcast. Then in the keywords on the website, Hala Taha Young, it's kind of like, it's kind of common sense. But think about when someone goes to YouTube, what are they typing in? They're not typing in how to be a master communicator they're going to type in how to not run out of things to say. Because that's what people need. So whether it's in-depth SEO research or even just going into Google or YouTube and starting the search term and seeing what autofills, those are common searches. And I like to create, strategies around what users are actually searching for, rather than things that are way out of left field that maybe I searched for, but no one else is really searching for. Does that all make sense?
It does. It makes a lot of sense. Yes. I mean, you just gave a strategy on how to look for SEOs, the words itself through Google. I'm tempted to ask, it's very obvious why SEOs would be important in the title of the podcast. Why the show notes, though?
I mean, the short version is Google's a robot crawling for information. It's going to look at the first paragraph as the highest priority. There's robots crawling with algorithms, and the better quality information you're creating, the better they can read it and recommend it. Because at the end of the day, Google wouldn't have a job if it was recommending the wrong information for the wrong searches. So all we can do is the best of our ability to get Google to recommend us. And beyond the SEO optimization, just writing a good paragraph. And for me, it's kind of not cost effective. We do a lot for every episode, but writing a good introduction with time-stamped notes for a podcast specifically, when you're on the podcast player, you can actually click on the timestamp and it'll take you to that spot. So one of the things we put in our notes is key takeaways. So if someone is in a rush and wants to just dive to the key takeaway, they can skip Ben rambling about SEO and just go straight to the notable quote. So it's really it creates a choose your own adventure for people.
Yes. It's the cliff notes to the episode.
Exactly.
So I was obsessed with your playlist, Bert Marketing videos. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions about that. You talk about different types of advertising in that playlist. I want to know what are the different types of advertising mechanisms which would be particularly useful for digital creators?
So Advertising specifically, or advertising as a broad term for like marketing in general?
How about we start with the broad and then go specific?
Are you a podcast enthusiast looking to share your voice and ideas with the world? Here is an exciting opportunity. Introducing the Ultimate Podcast Guide, designed to help you unleash your creativity and build your own podcast. Grab your free copy at redefineinstruction.com/ultimate podcast guide. Find a link in the show notes. Happy podcasting.
So I created let me make sure I don't butcher this. I created a new C passes. What's it called? What's it called? What's it called when you have, oh my God, what's the word for that? I am blanking. Oh my, I want to say a mnemonic device, which is not correct. Well, someone listening is going to be able to figure out pretty quickly, and you'll probably figure it out, and we're both going to feel silly. There's a name for it. But C passes stands for C, content, P, pay-per-click, A, advertising, like traditional ads, like a print ad, S for SEO, S for social media, E for email marketing, and then S again for search engine marketing, which is slightly different than SEO. Right. What's it called again when you break something down like that?
Oh, an acronym. You're talking about an acronym. Yes.
You're my first conversation this morning. I embarrassed myself. So
no,
that acronym,
it's all fun.
that kind of covers the wide basis. And I like to joke C passes. Like if you can get a C, that's good enough, but we want to do better than a C. And it's nearly impossible, unless you're a large agency with a huge team and a massive marketing budget, to be perfect at all of them. So really what people need to look at when it comes to content, pay-per-click, traditional advertising, SEO, social media, email marketing, search engine marketing, it's overwhelming.
Right.
You kind of have to figure out, where does my target client hang out the most, and put as much investment into that one platform or 1 to 3 platforms. Because again, it would be difficult to do all of those well.
Right. So what I'm hearing is start with one and then build up from there, for somebody who's new. Tell me, a lot of us as digital creators just dive in, right? We just dive in and don't have a strategy. You talk a lot about having a marketing strategy, even as a small business owner. Why is that important? And what does a strategy look like?
I still can't get over me not knowing.
I think that's going to make a fun part of the conversation.
Decorative.
Yes.
And here's the thing, like we're all imperfect, and your marketing strategy is going to be imperfect, but you do want to plan your attack before you attack your plan. You need to have certain goals in place to actually see, is this working for me? But what's difficult is a lot of it will be a little bit nuanced. Like you and I talked before we recorded, we've met so many great people through podcasting. That is hard to create a metric. You can't create a metric for a new best friend.
Yes.
But you could come in with a strategy as a podcaster. I want to make better connections that lead to long-term conversation and referrals. As a content creator or course creator, you could make a plan that I want to sell X amount in X amount of days, and this is the amount of times I'm going to post. This is the kind of content I'm going to post. I find that for, let's say, beauty industry is very much visual. It's very much trust-based. So if I'm in the beauty industry, I'm going to use a marketing strategy that leads into testimonials and reviews and before and afters and education. So based on my industry, I want to build a strategy and realize that no strategy is perfect. And even to counter that whole part, just getting started, even if you don't have the best strategy, is better than not doing anything at all. So just get started, but document what you do along the way, because the strategy will get better as you go.
Right. You roll with the punches. Have a plan, and then you roll with the punches. That's what I'm hearing. Okay, so I want to talk about you now for a little bit. Let's focus on the different series, that different podcasts that you have within your network. What is the focus of Learn, Speak, Teach? That's one of the many series that you offer in your network.
Yeah, and I touched on this, but I'll go a little deeper. It's the international show. It's Rochester Business Connections is local to Rochester, New York. It's long form dialogue. Learn, Speak, Teach is literally the exact same show, but not locally based. So I get to bring on people that were mentors of mine, like Jordan Harbinger, one of the biggest podcasters of all time, came on the show. Hala Taha has been on the show. That is more for the masses than my local show. And it's really just like, if you want to learn, be inspired, and achieve, we're here to speak and teach. And I'm there in the seat learning with everybody else. I'm not the expert on the show.
That's kind of how I felt. Yes. When I started my L&D podcast, that's kind of how I felt. Like, there's no better education than getting mentorship, putting education out there, and just getting the meat of the matter in 40 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever that length is, and having that friendship and relationship build all simultaneously. That's just powerful to me. Let's talk about 5-Minute Fridays. How did you come up with that concept, and what does that focus on?
And we'll talk offline. It's called 15-Minute Fridays now. So I'm curious.
Sorry.
No, it used to be called 5-Minute Fridays. So I'm curious.
I got that from your website.
That's why I want to talk offline, because I want to make sure I update that. 5-Minute Fridays at one point was actually, it started as blog articles. Everything I said about SEO, I would write the transcript out first and then speak it. So it was a way you could listen to an article. That was time consuming and overwhelming. And honestly, the listenership liked the conversational shows. So 5-Minute Fridays kind of evolved into 15-Minute Fridays, which is, again, just like Learn, Speak, Teach. It's me learning from international mentors, but it's in approximately 15 minutes, because hungry business people are like they're busy. I wanted to create a show that could be listened to on a commute to work. So if you don't want to dive into the story behind the story on Learn, Speak, Teach, you just turn on 15-Minute Fridays and you're done in 20 minutes or less.
Sweet. And then you have the collaborative podcast, which is A-B-squared-C lunch break. That is an interesting acronym to come up with. And I know that it has to do with the first name of everybody who leads that podcast. So tell me about how that idea came up.
Yeah. And Andrew Biernat, Brandon Eastman, Ben Albert, Christine Smith. That's where the acronym Good Word came from. And at the end of the day, we were all friends. We all liked chatting with each other. It was an excuse for us to get together and talk strategy, but not close the door, actually open the door for other people to hear. And we, over time, came up with, okay, A, B squared, C. Why don't we go through the ABCs of business and life? So every month, it's a once a month show. It's a LinkedIn Live. Every month I put out a LinkedIn poll. This upcoming month, we're doing K. So there was kindness, Kaizen, which is continuous improvement.
I know what Kaizen is. Yes.
There was
it's a Japanese term. Yes.
Japanese knowledge and kickstarting. So I put out a poll, and our viewership, the LinkedIn world, can vote on a K. And then we just get together and have an unscripted discussion based on that winning K, which I think Kaizen's going to win. And we're on K. So we've done however many that is, and we're going to go through the whole alphabet.
I think it's a unique concept. I just love it. And then you're meeting live with your audience on the platform. That makes it specifically different. Let's talk about Bert Marketing. I know you mentioned high ticket clients, and you offer a lot. I've done a little bit of research in terms of it starting out as a project, Bert Marketing. Tell me something about what it is and what do you offer over there?
And I joke all the time that I ask questions for a living, and we already talked about the podcast.
Yes.
Asking the right questions to extract, the right answers and get the wisdom to the people who need it. And then Balbert is the same thing, but it's
Mhm.
really sitting down with business people, asking questions to understand why do they do what they do? What is their differentiating factor? Who do they serve? How are they serving them? Where does that person hang out? And
Mhm.
then creating, I'm a marketing generalist. I already said it. I'm not perfect
Right.
at one thing. I do have specialists if you need
Mhm.
something super specific.
Okay.
I come in and utilizing my network and my team put together strategic plans to help their individual need and save time and make money with proven marketing systems is the short version.
Sweet, sweet. So what are the type of high ticket clients that you deal with, or where can people find you if they need to work with you?
Yeah. So balbertmarketing.com, realbusinessconnections.com, show
Mhm.
notes. I like to tell people though, this is more important than anything. Like I would not be here without your gracious host. So
Thank
your
you.
first step is click 5 stars, click subscribe, leave a review if you want to be like get some extra credit, leave a review. And you
Mhm.
can find me in the show notes or just by typing any of those things into Google.
Right.
But really, I'm working on Balbert. I'm working with business owners, any business, small to medium sized business owner that feels like the next best secret. They are better than their competition. People don't know it yet. And then
Mhm.
I deal on the real business connections end of things. I deal with thought leaders that are podcasters, content creators, et cetera, et cetera.
Sweet. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Ben. Is there any last minute advice that you'd like to give my audience before we sign off for today? I have a million questions. I can keep going all day, but any final words for the audience?
I have so many ways I could take this. I'll go this way. I have a lot of like Benisms, we can call it, but this is one of my favorite things I actually
I
learned
love
from
it.
Jarden Harbinger. You pick up your phone,
Mhm.
type in my passcode, you go to your favorite messaging app. So it can be Instagram, Facebook, your text messages. You start scrolling. And the
Mhm.
lower you scroll, the more you realize that you have known connections that you know, trust, and are friends with, and you want to cultivate that relationship, but you
Mhm.
haven't talked to them in days, months, years, possibly even decades.
Yes, that is
Once
so
a
true.
day, this only has to take a minute. Once a day, send a message that's relevant. Hey, how's your dog? Maybe not if there was that's actually, I just lost a dog, so I just like triggered myself.
Completely understand. Yes.
But go to their social, well, I triggered myself today. So go to their social profile, for example, see
Mhm.
what's new and be like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, I didn't realize you were engaged. Congratulations. And just send, or how's the business going? Or
Mhm.
how's the wife? Just send one message a day,
Mhm.
365 days a year.
That's
What, what do you
365
think?
people. Yeah.
What do you think that would do for your relationships, your fulfillment, your connections, your life? Just
I
from a
think
minute
it would just
exercise.
blossom. Yeah. Yeah. That's
And
awesome.
from a hard approach, you can reach out and be like, hey, how's your wife? But from a business approach, you can reach out to prospects and just be
Mhm.
like, hey, I read this article and thought about you. Send it to them. But one reach out a day so you can stay in the front of mind of the people that you want to be closer to.
I think that's awesome advice. Ben, thank you again for taking the time to speak with me. It's been a great conversation, and I'd love to have you back on the podcast again.
Hey, anytime, just message me and I'm here.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Redefine Instruction. Please leave feedback. Leave a comment or question on any of our social media pages. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for the latest episodes.